A sailor is dying and the sea will not stop moving. 2,000 years ago, weeks from land. No doctor, no medicine chest, just a crew watching one of their own grow paler by the hour. So they do the only thing they know. They break off a piece of a twisted, unremarkable root and press it into his hands. Chew, they tell him. Slowly, ginger. That's the medicine. A root so ordinary today, you'd forget it in the back of your fridge. But for thousands of years, people crossed oceans for it, paid fortunes for it, sailed into storms they might not survive just to carry it home. And strangest of all, they were never fully sure why it worked. They just trusted it. Picture civilizations who never met, who never spoke the same language, who never shared a single idea between them, all reaching for this same root. Some even called it by nearly the same name. That's what should be impossible. That's not a coincidence. That's a mystery. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand something most people who cook with ginger every week have never once stopped to ask. Why did the entire world agree on this one plant without ever agreeing on anything else? Let's find out, starting in a forest that no longer exists. Picture a world with no fridge, no pharmacy, no spice rack, just 3 problems that never left you alone. Bland food, unpredictable illness, and distance that spoiled everything you tried to carry. Somewhere in the forests of Asia, part of the answer was already growing. Nobody had found it yet. It didn't look like much. Long green stalks, narrow leaves, and beneath the soil, a pale, fat, twisted stem most people would have walked straight past. Someone finally broke it open. And everything changed. The smell hit first, sharp, warm, alive. Then the taste, a bite that tingled on the tongue and spread heat all the way to the belly. It woke up a dull meal. It warmed a cold night, and it seemed somehow to settle a troubled stomach. Remember this before we go any further. Ginger didn't belong to anyone yet. It belonged to the forest. That's about to change, and then not in a small way. Early foragers had no laboratory, no way to test a plant safely. What they had was time, generations of it, and a habit of paying close attention. Someone noticed the root eased a churning stomach. Someone else noticed it seemed to help before a fever broke. Nothing was written down. It was simply passed along, person to person. The way most knowledge traveled before writing existed at all. Slowly, without one dramatic moment of discovery, ginger stopped being just another plant in a crowded forest. It became something worth remembering, worth digging up, worth carrying home. That quiet shift, from ignored to essential, is where this story actually begins. Not one dramatic discovery, but thousands of small, patient decisions, repeated by people who never knew they were starting something that would eventually reach every continent on Earth. Try to find wild ginger anywhere on Earth today, and you will fail. Not one patch, not anywhere. Scientists still find that detail unsettling. Over thousands of years, people shaped this plant so completely, it forgot how to grow without them. Every ginger plant alive is a cutting from another. Break that chain and the whole species quietly disappears. People didn't just find ginger, they refused to let it go, and so it traveled. As a canoe plant carried across the open Pacific by sailors who packed it the way you'd pack something you couldn't survive without. No seeds needed. Just a piece of root wrapped and dried, light enough to carry, tough enough to last for years. It reached India, it reached China, and in both places people built entire traditions around it. Now picture a market, centuries later. A merchant loads his sacks with dried ginger, treasure disguised as cargo. He knows the rule that built fortunes. What's common here is rare somewhere far away. For weeks, maybe months, he moves. Overland through dust and heat, or by sea through storms that could sink everything he owns. He sleeps badly. He watches the horizon for danger. A single storm, a single band of thieves could take everything. But notice what he never tells the buyers. Where it actually comes from. Traders guarded that secret fiercely, spinning tales of danger in distant lands, anything to keep the source a mystery. For a long time, the people paying fortunes for ginger had no idea where on earth it began. The mystery was part of the price. By the time it reached Rome, ginger had passed through more hands than anyone could trace. Persian, Arab, Indian, each one adding a markup, each one keeping their piece of the secret. To own it was to announce your wealth. Reached the edge of the known world. Roman. Customs houses in ports like Alexandria. Logged every incoming shipment and taxed it heavily. Enough to double the price before it ever reached a dinner table in the capital. And still people paid. Because by then, ginger wasn't just a flavor. It was proof of reach. Proof that an empire's wealth could summon treasures from the very edge of the map. Centuries later, Europe's traders had a bolder idea. Skip the middlemen entirely. Sail straight to the source. This single idea helped launch the age of exploration. Ginger riding alongside pepper. Cloves and gold as empires raced to control the trade. The Portuguese arrived first, planting fortified trading posts along routes their ships had charted. The Dutch followed, forming a company with the power to wage war and govern territory on its own authority. The English pursued the same prize. For 2 centuries, these nations fought, colonized, and negotiated their way across a map, reshaped almost entirely by the pursuit of spice. Ginger rarely made the headlines in these conflicts, but it traveled the same ships, filled the same cargo holds, was taxed at the same ports from Alexandria to Lisbon, recorded in ledgers beside gold and silk. Still, for the person who finally tasted it, none of that history was visible. It simply arrived. What people were really paying for was never just flavor. They were buying the miles. If an entire route's value came from how far it traveled, ask yourself what happens once the distance disappears. Remember that sailor from the opening. He wasn't an isolated case. Long before modern medicine, healers across the world reached for ginger for the exact same complaints: nausea, stomach trouble, joint pain, the ache of a cold. They had no laboratories. What they had was centuries of repeated observation, passed down without ever comparing notes across oceans. The story takes an unexpected turn now. Modern science actually caught up with them. Ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shogols, linked to real anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. Clinical trials have found genuine evidence it eases certain kinds of nausea, including pregnancy-related nausea, one of the rare folk remedies that is held up cleanly under rigorous testing. Other research points to a possible role in reducing inflammation, markers in easing muscle soreness, though results across studies remain mixed. A reminder that not every ancient belief survives contact with a controlled trial. But let's be honest about the limits too. It isn't a cure for serious illness. Much of the hype in today's wellness aisles outpaces what the research actually shows. Walk down that aisle and you'll find ginger in shots, teas, capsules, riding a wave of people searching for something natural. Some of it backed by solid science, some of it just hope wearing the label of research. It's worth knowing the difference. Strip away the exaggeration though, and what's left is still remarkable. A root that ancient healers trusted with no understanding of chemistry turns out to contain compounds modern medicine can now measure and explain. They were right, long before they knew why. So here's the real question this video keeps circling back to. How does an entire species arrive at the same medical conclusion independently without ever comparing answers? We're about to see that pattern again, in an even stranger place. Underneath everything we've covered so far hides a strange agricultural fact. Ginger cannot grow without us, no seeds, no wild patch waiting to be rediscovered. Every plant alive today began as a fragment of root, a rhizome, cut from another plant and pressed back into soil by human hands. A living chain, unbroken for thousands of years. It demands warmth, humidity, rich soil, and patience, up to 10 months from planting to harvest. Constant attention. Careful storage of the very rhizomes needed to start the next generation. Farmers today still hand-select the healthiest roots to replant, rotate fields to protect the soil, and time the harvest to the rhythm of the monsoon. Techniques a grower from 1,000 years ago would still recognize on sight. This is exactly why ginger became a canoe plant, a caravan good, a ship's cargo in the first place. Growing it was never passive. It was a partnership, the plant offering relief, people offering the will to carry it wherever they went. Something here deserves a closer look. Of the thousands of plants humans have domesticated, Very few became this completely dependent on us. Wild wheat still grows in the Fertile Crescent. Wild bananas still grow in New Guinea, seed-filled and barely edible, but alive on their own terms. Ginger has no wild cousin waiting to be found anywhere. Its ancestor, if it ever existed separately, is gone, erased by thousands of years of selective replanting. That makes ginger rarer than a domesticated crop. It makes it something people quietly built, rhizome by rhizome. Longer than most civilizations have lasted. Today, India grows more of it than any nation on Earth, followed by Nigeria, China, Nepal, Indonesia. The tools have changed. The relationship never did. That same cloned inheritance carries a risk few people ever think about. Because ginger reproduces only through cutting, entire crops can share identical vulnerabilities. The same susceptibility to the same disease, the same pest, the same soil-borne fungus. Researchers now maintain genetic seed banks, preserving diverse ginger varieties in case disease or shifting climate ever threatens the crop at scale. A living thing, this, dependent on human care, was never something people could afford to take for granted. By the Middle Ages, a pound of ginger could cost as much as a whole sheep. Rent could be settled in spices. Dowries were negotiated with sacks of it. Out of that scarcity came something nobody would have predicted. Joy. Bakers shaped gingerbread into knights, animals, even little people. Some hopeful young women even ate gingerbread husbands, wishing for a real one. That's how much meaning people wrapped up in one small spice. Europe was only one thread, though. In Japan, ginger became gari, the palate cleanser eaten between bites of sushi, a small ritual most people never realize they're performing. In China, it's inseparable from the wok itself, sliced into stir-fries, simmered into broth. In India, ground into curries, brewed into chai, chewed raw before a meal to wake the appetite. In the Caribbean, fermented into ginger beer, fiercely spiced, distinctly its own. In the Middle East, it folded into the blends that define entire regional cuisines, mixed with cinnamon and cardamom in warming winter dishes, ground into rubs for roasted meats, brewed into spiced tea offered to guests as a gesture of hospitality. In West Africa, became central to drinks like zobo and kunu, and to the fiery sauces served alongside grilled meat, a route that arrived through both ancient and colonial trade, and was fully absorbed into a cuisine that made it entirely its own. Wherever it traveled, ginger didn't just get added to the menu. It rewrote what a proper meal, a proper cup of tea, a proper celebration was supposed to taste like. In India, ginger was never just an ingredient. Ayurveda calls it Vishwabhishaj, the universal medicine, believed to kindle the body's digestive fire and restore balance. Ancient texts describe it not as an occasional remedy, but as a daily practice, a small ritual meant to keep body and mind in harmony. In China, traditional Chinese medicine classified ginger as a warming substance, prescribed to counter cold and stagnation within the body, a practice documented over 2,000 years ago, and still taught today. This detail should stop you. These traditions developed continents apart. No contact, no shared texts, no trade of ideas, only trade of the root itself. And yet, independently, they arrived at the same conclusion. This small plant held power beyond its taste. Beyond formal medicine, ginger found its way into ritual across cultures who never compared notes. In parts of Asia, it was offered during ceremonies believed to protect against illness, its sharp scent thought to purify a space. In folk tradition, carrying a piece of it was believed to ward off bad luck on a journey, a quiet echo of the very journeys that carried the root across oceans in the first place. This is the same pattern we saw in the lab a few minutes ago, just wearing different clothes. Some researchers suggest this kind of convergence happens whenever a substance's effects are strong and consistent enough that any careful observer, anywhere, would eventually notice the same thing. Others see it as something harder to name, a kind of shared human instinct, arrived at independently again and again, whenever people got sick and searched the natural world for relief. Either way, the pattern holds. Across every belief system this root ever touched, it was never treated as ordinary. Ginger needs a very specific world to survive. Warmth, humidity, soil that drains but never dries. That's why its cultivation is always clustered along the same tropical belt. Southeast Asia, southern India, West Africa, later the Caribbean. It's fragile in one way. A single season of heavy rain can rot its roots entirely. But it's resilient in another, traditionally grown alongside other shade-loving plants, rather than in vast single-crop fields. Ginger farming has largely avoided the fragility that has devastated other global crops. A single crop plantation stretching to the horizon is a target waiting for one disease to find it. A small diversified plot, ginger growing among other shade-tolerant plants, is far harder for any one threat to wipe out entirely. As climate patterns grow less predictable, some researchers now point to this traditional approach as a genuine model for the future. Not a relic, but something industrial agriculture is only beginning to rediscover. Large agribusiness operations are already experimenting with intercropping and shaded ground cover, borrowing a page from farming traditions that never stopped using it. Rising temperatures are also nudging ginger's traditional growing regions northward, forcing farmers in some areas to adapt planting schedules that stayed fixed for generations. Even a plant this resilient has limits worth watching. The same trait that let ginger survive a canoe crossing the Pacific thousands of years ago is now being studied to help farming survive a changing planet. It never needed to be reinvented. It simply needed to be remembered. Now come back to today. A kitchen, you might know. Someone slices a piece of ginger, the way people have for thousands of years, drops it into a mug, pours hot water over the top, steam curls upward. Nothing about it feels special. Just tea on an ordinary day. Look closer, though, at that little slice of root. Inside it are the forests of Asia, where it grew unnoticed in the shade. The sailors who carried it across oceans in canoes. The healers in India and China who trusted it independently, with no way of knowing the other existed. The merchants who guarded its secret like treasure. The empires who fought to control it. The farmers, generation after generation, who refused to let it disappear. The same root, trusted by civilizations who never met, passed hand to hand across every border until it reached your mouth. Here's the wonderful part. The person sipping that tea has no idea. To them, it's just ginger. Just a warm drink on an ordinary day. Somewhere in the space between that ship and this kitchen, thousands of years passed. The empires that fought over this root are gone. The languages that once named it are barely spoken. The secret roots traders once guarded so carefully are now marked on a map anyone can search in seconds. The root remains, though, unchanged in the ways that matter. Still warm, still sharp, still somehow trusted. By now, though, you know better. You know it's not really a question about a spice. It's a question about us, about how strangers, separated by oceans and centuries, kept arriving at the exact same truth, without ever meaning to. The next time you hold a piece of ginger, remember what it's really carrying. This has been Roots of Earth. If this root story surprised you, subscribe, and tell us in the comments whether you'll ever look at a piece of ginger the same way again.